What exactly is causing the outbreak to escalate the way it has?
Well, you know, as many people have mentioned, these swarms look almost biblical.
Fruit bats in plague numbers have descended on a Queensland town, bringing unbearable smell, noise and mess, leaving residents at their wits' end. The situation's become even more serious after the problem prevented a helicopter carrying a patient from landing at the hospital.
It almost looks apocalyptic, fruit bats in their hundreds of thousands, blanketing the evening sky. This is a day in the life of the residents of Ingham.
These extraordinary videos were taken by locals during a roosting season.
Unless you're here and seeing it, it is incredible. We shouldn't be living like this.
East Africa is facing its worst locust outbreak in 70 years, with Kenya hit particularly hard. Billions of locusts are swarming across the continent.
Among the more unsettling images of the week past, a literal plague of locusts, billions of them, ravaging Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia in East Africa. The locusts are devouring crops and threatening the food supply of millions.
Experts at the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization say the current invasion of desert locusts in eastern Africa is the worst in Ethiopia and Somalia in 25 years and the worst in Kenya in 70 years. The FAO estimates one of the swarms currently over Kenya covers an area of about 2,400 square kilometers and may contain as many as 200 billion locusts.
You can see in this video just how massive the locust swarms have been across the region.
These bugs have infested farmland and destroyed crops. Farmers are calling on the international community to help prevent a food crisis.
As a matter of fact, we are still having rains in Kenya, which is very unusual for this time of the year, and all of this creates these very favorable conditions.
Mr. Ferrand, the situation has been going on for several weeks. We've mentioned it already several times here on Eye on Africa, even since November in some parts of the continent. Several countries have announced measures, including spraying chemicals, but it appears it's getting worse with this new report and these new figures released by the FAO. Why is that?
The United Nations says the region needs around $76 million to combat the crisis. Officials warn the locust outbreak will spread across the entire continent of Africa and into other parts of the world if action isn't taken.
This is a very rare phenomena, but once it does occur, it becomes extremely threatening to food securities, livelihoods, pastures, and of course, with pastures, if herders have to move animals into new areas, that this can be sources of conflict.
And just to give you a sense of how big these swarms are, one was spotted in a part of Kenya that contained about 200 billion of these creatures, and in the sky it occupied a space 3 times the size of New York City. And as the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN has warned, they could increase 500-fold by June if not contained and checked immediately and spread elsewhere. Now, part of the problem is that these locusts are very difficult to track. They move very quickly, but they're not just a scary invasion. They also eat food. Even a small swarm of locusts can consume enough food for 35,000 people, and farmers are complaining that about 90% of their crops have already been destroyed. The locusts are now moving towards Uganda and towards South Sudan. South Sudan already under terrible strain from food insecurity. And if you consider that over 20 million people in East Africa are already facing food shortages due to periodic drought and flooding, you have a very serious problem when locusts start eating their only source of food. By April, it's too late because you've then already created this problem. If they get the money soon, then they can start the spraying, because the idea is to get the locusts while they're still young and hopping and before that population booms. It's very difficult to track them, but if you can have some kind of surveillance, you can then follow them, because these locusts can move about 90 miles in just one day. And climate experts are warning that there's going to be continuing unpredictable weather in the Horn of Africa. And so it's going to be very difficult to anticipate when these locusts may breed again and in such quantities.
The noise is deafening, the stench worse, but locals are powerless to get rid of them unless they break the law.
This is just like from a horror movie.
And it was like a bat tornado over the town. That's how bad it was.
It just seems to me that every bat in Australia is now in Ingham.
It's a town under siege. Overrun by bats that outnumber the population by hundreds of thousands.
It just stinks. It stinks.
Infiltrating every corner of the town and putting lives at risk. It's mid-morning in Ingham in North Queensland, and in the centre of the normally quiet town, there's a cacophony of screeches.
The problem that we're having is that we're seemingly being influxed by more and more animals, and the roost cannot handle it.
The botanical gardens are overrun with bats. Every inch of every branch is covered with them. Mayor Raymond J.O. says they've now reached biblical plague proportions.
It's a nightmare. It is a nightmare. It's truly disgusting.
Some of the trees are so full of bats, they're constantly breaking from the sheer weight of them. The bus stop, footpaths, even the town's cenotaph are covered in bat feces. But at night, it's far worse.
This is what locals here have to put up with every day. There's hundreds of thousands of bats flying around. The noise is horrendous and the smell is putrid and lingers long after the bats have flown away for the evening. This can last up to an hour and is repeated every morning when they return.
If you'd come up here and had a look and had to try to live in this area, it would drive you insane.
As the colony grows, so do concerns for locals' welfare. The bats have recently moved into trees at the local kindergarten and primary school.
Well, Indiana State Insect is known for giving off bright flashes of light, creating some dazzling displays at night, but the light of fireflies could soon be going out as that insect faces extinction. Scientists say the loss of natural habitat, pesticides, and artificial lighting all play a role. Many fireflies rely on chemical reactions in their bodies to draw them to light and allow them to find mates. Light pollution messes with that cycle. Scientists say their goal is to make land managers and policymakers aware of the threat to keep fireflies around longer.
These are all dead birds. All these are birds, dead birds. One of them just flew away.
Instead of watching them fly in the sky, some people living in this Lee County community of Matlacha Isles say these dead birds are showing up on their lawns and streets. 4 in Your Corner's Rachel Lloyd is looking into neighbors' concerns about these birds tonight. Rachel?
Now, this is just one remaining bird from a cluster of dead birds people found this morning. It's unclear who or what removed the others, but people living here just want to know how they wound up dead in the first place. You can tell by all the bird sculptures that Matlacha Isles a pretty animal-friendly place. But Ron says it's been a tough weekend walking his dog, Groot. He keeps getting distracted, and he's not the only one.
Well, when I was walking on the next street over, I just looked down and there's this dead bird just laying on the side of the road.
We had 3 on another street, Boatshell and Matlacha. We had about 4.
Beatrice Dorino says she's counted up to 20 dead grackles since Friday.
It's unusual because it's only here.
For the most part, there's no signs of blood or bruising, except for one case.
Yesterday morning, there was one that was slightly alive, and a woman tried to get it, and it did fly away, but she saw a puncture wound, so we don't know if it was attacked by something or if it was shot.
And Frances Martorella has a few ideas of her own.
I thought maybe somebody's poisoning them.
or they've got a disease or something that's killing them.
Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission says they're looking into the issue, and until they get to the bottom of it, Motorella's taking matters into her own hands. Literally. She's already collected 3 from Boat Shell Drive. She says she'll hang on to them to pass off to FWC if they need them.
Doves are dying in North Dakota.
So we're focusing on our feathered friends who've contracted a deadly virus.
And as we report in tonight's top story, the Game and Fish Department is working to document the extent of this disease outbreak.
There are still so many unknowns.
Why this year? Why? Where did it come from originally? You know, will it be around next year?
But State Game and Fish veterinarian Dr. Charlie Bonson is hoping to find those answers. He says the virus was first discovered in the United States in 2009, but until now, it had never been reported in North Dakota.
It's called pigeon paramyxovirus 1, which it's a mouthful, but it's this virus that seems to be very specific to primarily Eurasian collared doves, but also pigeons, maybe mourning doves.
He says at this point it seems to be specific to the Bismarck-Mandan area. In 1 week, there were more than 40 reports, but many more dead doves are coming into this lab. 2 more just today.
The first report was from some just concerned backyard bird watchers. You know, they noticed a number of Eurasian collared doves that were fine one day and dead or near dead the next day. They'll usually have a full crop. They just ate a bunch of food. They've got good fat stores on them, so it's really a very fast, acute disease.
And as the Game and Fish continues to look for answers, like why the flare-up and why now,
some alarming news today for millions who live along the Great Lakes. The Army Corps of Engineers says 3 of the 5 lakes, Michigan, Huron, and Superior, broke January records for water levels. And as Dean Reynolds reports, all that water is now forcing many with waterfront property into a battle to save their homes.
The other day, Tish Ganser looked out on the waters of Lake Michigan, the final resting place of her house. Built by her grandfather, most of her lakefront cottage fell off a cliff on New Year's Eve, leaving only a bit of foundation.
I just can't believe how much of it is gone. I'm not a rich person, and I really don't know how I'm going to get out of this.
Those 10 to 14 foot waves out here.
Nick Bonstell, the director of the Ottawa County, Michigan Emergency Management Team, noted that the lakes were at or near their lowest point as recently as 2013.
Nobody has seen how quick and how much property has been lost in such a short amount of time with this type of erosion.
Across the Great Lakes, the inundation has been accompanied by more frequent and intense storms that have stripped away the sandy base of beachfront homes.
There's so many wonderful memories.
Rita Alton lives in Manistee, Michigan. Her nearly 70-year-old home lies a few feet from disaster. 1/3 of a mile of her property has already washed away.
I'm just sitting here waiting for the rest to go down.
A desperate effort by homeowners is now underway to move their houses away from the approaching cliffs or build stone barriers to retain the shifting sands below.
There's not many options. It's basically do this or lose your home.
The last 2 years were the wettest in more than a century for the Great Lakes, virtually ensuring another season of unusually high water levels that could turn dream homes into nightmares.
Well, despite the cold and the snow we saw earlier this week, it has been an especially mild winter, right? Just look outside today.
Yeah, you said like the top 5, I think, for us.
Yeah, in January it was top 7, but overall this winter.
Overall so far, yeah.
Overall this winter, second warmest winter on record.
We're not the only ones who are seeing such an unusually warm period of time, right?
No, we're not. In fact, there are very few places on Earth that aren't warmer than normal on average here over recent history, including an area well to our south.
You're watching the birth of an iceberg. From a mile away, there's a faint rumble as Antarctica's William Glacier first crumbles, then collapses, a tower weighing thousands of tons toppling into the fjord, then rolling with a torrent of water and ice falling off its sides. The vibrations trigger further ice falls left and right the camera barely able to keep up.
This is a global concern. Take a look at this. Yesterday, Antarctica reached its all-time highest temperature on record, according to Argentina's National Weather Service.
While a crewmate filmed up on the bridge of our British Antarctic Survey ship, there was astonishment.
So as I say, you've got bits of it moving this way. The whole front then moved off to the right, and then it just started another cascade further and further and further down the glacier, at which point we were already turning round to make our way out into deeper water, because we just really weren't sure exactly how much more of it was going to collapse. But the whole face of the glacier, as you're looking at it now, is a completely different vista to what it was 2 days ago.
But a few hours later, we venture back in. The huge iceberg is grounded on the seabed. Offcuts are still splitting and spinning. The blue ice, hardened by the immense pressure of the glacier, is a serious hazard to our ship.
We're still around 1 kilometre from the ice front, but this is as far as the captain dares go, and with good reason.
It's impossible to say how much ice has been lost, but 5 square miles of water are now covered in the debris. Air bubbles thousands of years old, popping like Rice Krispies as the ice melts. It's rare to see such significant carving, but over the last 20 years the glacier has retreated by almost a mile. Antarctica has lost 3 trillion tons of ice over the last 25 years as the planet has warmed. Ice that's rapidly adding to sea levels around the world.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, hello and welcome to the Ben and Grem Show, another episode brought to you by me, that's Ben, and the Grem, the Gremster, who will be with us imminently. But just want to say hello everybody, and it has been a while. It's been about what, a week I think since the last live stream, but we're here and it's no time like the present because we've got lots to discuss this evening, lots of different news topics for you to go over and get your opinions on, more importantly, because otherwise we wouldn't have a show, would we? So let's get going, shall we? But firstly, I want to say been a good day. Managed to get a parking space. Great, you know, when you come home from work, where you come home from anywhere you've been, shopping or wherever else, the last thing you want to do is look for a parking space. We've had these conversations in previous episodes where, you know, parking spaces have been an issue, and I have to say, when you come straight home, straight into a spot, all is fine and dandy, isn't it? But there you go. See, you can't have everything, all right? Don't take things for granted. We all pay road tax, don't we? We always hear that. We all pay road tax. You can park where on earth you like. So how is everybody? I hope everyone is well. I hope the viewers are ready, because we did a little bit of a different thing for you this evening. We had a video, guys, and that video was a little bit about what's gone on in the course of the last year, 2020 period. Lots of things going on, lots of disasters. Sadly, I think it's one of those years that many would like to write off. Last but not least, the coronavirus is particularly the current subject of the day, and will be for several months, I think, ahead of us, which is something we can't control directly. But there you go, we are doing our best. We will do what we can. But, you know, around the world, you may have seen we have rising water levels. of course, with Antarctica, things are melting, sea levels are rising, and in due course, it's going to have a detrimental effect on the globe, the planet as we know it. Then we've got the locusts. I mean, that was a bit, I don't know if you saw that, guys, but that was a bit crazy, wasn't it? And of course, locusts in swarms can actually do a lot of damage to agriculture, and of course you saw that yourselves. I hope you enjoyed that video. So how is everybody? Please feel free to throw a comment in the comments box, like, share and subscribe to the Ben and Grem Show, and that be it the YouTube channel, or otherwise please also the Facebook, because that's where again you'll find a lot of our videos that we have done, and that's some live, of course. But I hope everyone is well. How's your days been, guys? Has there been anything that you want to talk about? Because we are virtually almost ready to go with our topics, but more importantly, we have to start somewhere, and I like to believe that somewhere is you. So what have you got to talk to us about? You know, how's your day been? Have you had a good day? Have you had a bad day? Is there something you want to get off your chest? Is there something you want to talk about? You know, sometimes that's what happens, isn't it? You have a bad day and you talk about it, and it makes it a bit better because you have a different concept to that problem. You know, if sometimes a problem shared is a problem halved, and there's no truer word spoken on that. And so that's what we've got to remember. We have to remember that we have to share our problems. It's the most important thing. And Graham, our good friend Graham, will say the very same. Right, guys, we've just had a slight delay in the chat, and I'm glad to say it's popped up nicely for us. There's a slight delay, but now we've got it, we can start exploring some of the comments that you're bringing through. I was winging it a little bit there, guys. I don't know if you noticed. Lisa says, hi, guys. When nature turns. Yes, Andrew. Andrew, nice to see you too. He also says, Andrew says, hi, Ben and Grem. Grem will be with us shortly, Andrew. Bear with. He is here. He's just not here. I love the shirt, mate. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I wasn't going to wear the lead shirt, actually. I was looking for a shirt. Smart shirt. Although we can consider this a smart shirt. And somebody hasn't done their laundry, had I? So, my bad. I don't watch the news. No, you don't, Andrew. You're right, you don't. I remember you saying that to us before. Yeah, do you know, I actually thought to myself, Andrew, right, okay, I thought, well, something a little bit different, something to watch, you know what I mean? I thought rather than have us have a bit of music, you know, to start off the stream, we thought we'd go with a little bit of news. Interesting news, I hope it was for you guys. Interesting in the way of a bit of nature and, you know, some of the things that are going on in 2020 that maybe we're not aware of around the world, you know? So I just thought it would just mix it up a little bit. But regardless, I know you don't watch the news, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. Sade, nice to see you, Sade. Climate change is extremely real, totally. I absolutely agree. It's happening. You know, some people tell you it's not, but it really is. We really do have to, don't we, look after the Antarctica, North and South Poles, because that ice is melting. And according to that video as well, you'll see, or had seen, the rise in sea levels. Of course, we're talking about tons and tons of ice. It's going to have a bad effect. So Andrew says hello. Lee, he says, a pants day in school, he says. Well, that's one way to put it. He says, shouldn't let a maths teacher do the timetable for design and technology. Well, okay, fine. You're the best person to say that, I suppose, being the fact that you're a teacher, Lee. But on that subject, I think I wouldn't be able to trust anybody but you, because actually I know how you work with us behind the scenes with the Ben and Grem and the Ben and Grem Show and Small Talk. And I will say, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here doing this now. So, and that's the truth of it. And Grem, I'm sure in a moment will agree. Well, hopefully, Lee, your day will be a bit better for you tomorrow. Always looking up and onwards and upwards. Hope the Gremster joins you soon. Yes, absolutely, Andrew. He is here, as I say. He is with us. He's just touching up on a few bits and pieces, and then he'll be with us. But like all things, perfection can't be met instantly. And Graham is quite a perfectionist, but that also, he is good at what he does. And when he's ready, he's ready. So that's the main thing. We're on, we're live, and he will be with us shortly, because without him, I'm nothing. That's the truth of it. Andrew has said that shirt would look good on you and Grem. Yeah, it would actually. Well, actually, that's possible, Andrew, because Grem has actually recently announced, being a Chelsea fan, he's moved to Leeds. Now, you don't hear that every day. So I think the reason for him supporting Chelsea if that's ever a reason to support Chelsea, was the colour of the shirt. So there you go. If that's a reason to support your favourite football team, who knows? But yeah, Grem, thank you. We all need supporters. Leeds United need supporters. So I agree with you there, actually, Andrew. Thank you. The ice is definitely melting, he says. I am working through these comments. Lisa says, I had a good day trying to sort out a new group for our town called the Dover Veterans Social and Support Club. Lisa, you're a hero. All right? You never give up. And I'm really pleased to hear it, because regardless of what goes on in Dover, however good or bad, or in Kent, or anywhere in the local area of local politics or otherwise community aspect, you are there to save the day. I mean, everyone enjoys your company. Yeah, you're one of those sort of people that can bring crowds together, and I wish you all the best with that. And I'd like to know a bit more about it. So certainly, if you do have any information, me and Ben, that's not true, Grem and I, Ben and Grem, would like to see it on the Ben&Grem Show Facebook page, because that'd be great. We'd love to advertise it, and that's mostly important. Advertising. Maybe I can donate some ice from my freezer. That's great, Sade. What you mean, as in like get that ice and put it back into the Antarctica? Well, that it'd take a while, but I guess that's a good idea. Yeah. Problem is, again, technically, if it's still melting, it's going to melt and it's going to add even further, isn't it? I suppose. Or maybe there's another way we could do this, guys. I've just come into an idea here. Sade, what about this for an idea? All right, guys, what do you think about this? So, Antarctica, to save climate change at a rapid rate in which we know is being caused by the melting of the ice caps, what we do is we take the ice, take it away from the Antarctica, put it in some warehouse, controlled warehouse. That sounds ridiculous. Some sort of factory or something. And then we can use it and sell it to supermarkets, and we can have it as ice. You know, natural ice. Probably a bit salty, actually, I would have thought. Probably is, so it maybe not. But if we... Nah, it's not going to work, is it, guys? Forget that. Forget it. But, you know, I'm just trying to think, you know, if we take away the ice from the Antarctica and use it for other means, then technically, then we're saving the potential aspect of rising sea levels. Or, actually, no, maybe even better, we could use that ice. No, actually, let's stick with this idea. Let's say we use the ice, not use it for our beverages, because that's not going to work. Nobody likes salt in their Coke. In fact, it would fizz, wouldn't it, if I remember rightly from past experience. But let's say you use that ice and use it for fields, maybe. Yeah, maybe use it for watering fields. Again, I'm not sure how the salt would work, but I don't know. Lee says, especially when they book classes in the workshop after it's been closed due to COVID. Yeah, well, yeah, that's tough. I don't know how you guys are doing it, because, you know, you've got a lot of children to look after. I say look after, but to organise, if you like, and all this booking and all these changes. I suppose it's not just hard work for them as students, but it's also hard work for you, Lee, I can imagine, because it's changing your schedule and upon how you might do things, and you've got to adapt as well, as much as they have, you have. My boy, actually, today, he went to primary school. His first day, but not his first official day. He actually goes into primary school for his first day in September. I believe it's September the 12th. No, actually, that's when the football season starts. Forget that. Somebody might be able to remind me on that when school goes back for those in September. Lisa probably can help me out with that. Where was I? So anyhow, so he went into school and he met his teacher for the first time, and we had to fill out some forms. And you know, he spoke to a teacher and he was talking about different things that he can get himself involved with. Reception, they call it, the very first year, reception. So he's excited. He's looking forward to going, and he has been for a little while actually. So I'm pleased to say it's not going to be long before he is officially in. Yeah, I think he'll enjoy it. Could you imagine? Yeah, no, yeah, could you imagine? Yeah, I know, Sade. Could you imagine? No, not really. Lee said there's too much to explain on chat. Remind me and I'll write an article on how it works for next time. Thank you, Lee. Well, that's what you're good at. Not just because you're good at that, but you are good at it because you do it with us. What? I think that makes sense. Lisa says, please repeat. Sorry, kids, interrupted my viewing. Okay, no, that's fine, Lisa. Never happens, really, does it? Kids don't interrupt anything. What are you talking about, Lisa? No, they do sometimes. Yeah, what I was saying, Lisa, was the schools, for those that are going to school. So I'm talking about, say, the nurseries going up to primary. So those that start school in September. I know they start in September, but I'm just trying to wonder what the date was. I think it's a week or so from now, is it? I think, but I'm not exactly sure. I think he goes back. He goes in a week. He starts in a week, but the date I'm not sure of. But yeah, I guess you might know, because mums know these things. Dads should do too, and there's no reason why dads don't, but I don't. Mums are good at these things, aren't they, Lisa? And dads. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, Sade, I can't imagine. Yeah, ice. Yeah, I mean, it's like, you got to think on your feet, haven't you? You know, there's always, it's like plastics, right? We talk about the ozone and the dangers to the planet and the globe and animals and so on and so forth, microscopic plastics being seen in particular food production, which is a concern. We understand that there are ways in which we can utilise the plastic to, not only can we recycle it, but also we can use it in roads. And of course, some countries are already doing that. India in particular, third world country, maybe not so much these days because they're coming up in the world, but actually they are, or have been known to, use plastics within their tarmac, which actually bonds better, so it doesn't have the tarmac come up within a short space of time from being laid. Just a bit of information for you. And on that basis as well, local councils up and down the country, or UK councils, have also trialled this particular plastic in the use of plastics in roads up and down the country, and I believe it's working. But that's not going to fix the problem. Obviously, the single-use plastics is obviously a problem, as we know. You know, we've got to stop using plastic and go into things like glass and proper packaging if we can, and less of the plastic. And that's the only way we're going to combat this. We don't want our sea life to be affected anymore. Yeah, there is always something we can do. But that point being is that with the ice, we could do something with it. Water fields with it or something. I don't know. I mean, there's a lifetime's worth of supply of water there, isn't it? Did anyone watch a show on telly a few nights ago, Lee says, where they showed the tea bags that are actually made from polypropylene and therefore shouldn't go in the recycling as advertised? No, I didn't see that, Lee. Anybody else? That's an interesting concept. Yeah, there's a lot of education out there. There's a lot of things out there that we as people can watch and pick up on, you know, so there is no excuse for us, really, is there? You know, there's always something that we can educate ourselves in, so there's no real excuse. Just make sure you do the right thing by your plastics. Buy a bag for life, actually. If you've got one, buy another one, because you don't know how many you're going to need. If you go shopping, you know for a well, you know one bag is not going to be enough. Buy 3, buy 4. Okay, it's expensive, but it's a worthy investment, isn't it? No, actually Lisa says no, schools are different, and some do half days. From now on, like Federation schools, some start on Monday coming. Right, okay, yes, you're right, Lisa, because actually some children that are in the particular school I refer to are actually going in as part-time, and also some are going in full-time. I know I'll be putting my boy in particular full-time, but yeah, it's down to the individual, the parents, that is. Of course, there is a choice in the matter, because sometimes you think about it, they're quite young, and you know they've got to adapt to a longer day, I suppose, and you don't want to rush them into anything. So I suppose you could put your child in for full time, and then you know if they're struggling a little bit, then maybe have that conversation, and then maybe pull them out and maybe not do so many days in a week. I mean, that's an option, always an option. So Andrew says his boy goes back tomorrow full time. Good on you, Andrew. Yeah, well that's it. I mean, they probably will like full time. I don't think there's many in comparison in parents putting their children in part time to full time. I think mostly people are putting them in full time. I suppose because most people work, don't they? So it's more convenient for them. But like I say, you've also got you've got to look at it from the child's point of view. You know, if a child is you know, not maybe used to a long day, maybe it's because your child has done part days in primary school, not primary school, sorry, nursery school. My apologies. So yeah, they're not going to be used to it straight away. It's been great having him at home. Yeah, it has. And that, I think, really, when you look at the coronavirus, as much as it's been really bad for us all, I think actually you could say it has had some positives, even if it's maybe not seen quite like that. You know, for example, we've had our family. You know, we've had our family around us more than we would normally. So we've actually got to know each other more. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Good, I think, it's fair to say. Mustn't look on the negative side of anything. Always look at the positive. If there is a negative, look at the positive first, I think. That goes for everything, I suppose. So yeah, we've been able to experience more family time, which has been good. Reflect on things. Think about what you're going to do next in life. You know, maybe even think about another job. You know, because, well, after all, you're not going to work, or hadn't been going to work. But I guess nowadays people are, aren't they? People are back to work. Obviously, people are some of which are furloughed, some aren't. And of course, we know that the government have implemented changes coming into October, in through to November, where of course more emphasis is going to be put on the employers to cover the percentage of furlough over the government. So that's also going to have an impact on staffing, I think it's fair to say. And of course, some companies aren't going to be willing to do that as much, in which case they will be left to look elsewhere for work. But we'll hopefully not have to talk about that too many cases, because we all want our jobs. Yeah, so who else have we got here? Turns out that most tea bags contain plastic in the bag. Clipper, tea bag, PG Tips, and one of the other I can't recall were the only ones that didn't. Oh right, that's interestingly. That's it. That's really interesting. That's worrying. The amount of tea I drink, I'm made of plastic. Yeah, that's not good, is it? I missed that one earlier, actually. That was a previous post. Well, I think the open of school Saturday is to catch up on what they have lost. Yeah, makes sense. Obviously, teachers need to kind of catch up, I suppose. I mean, they do a lot of that, don't they? When the schools are shut, they do a lot of that. You find when the kids go home from the students, or should I say, go home from schools, you find that the parents are still there, like 5:30, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. But yeah, that's because they are working hard. Never underestimate how much a teacher works, guys. We know that it seems they have a lot of time off in a year, but don't be fooled. They're actually working. Isn't that right, Lee? Another mic is on somewhere. Yes, it is. It is. Thank you, Andrew. That would be our good man Grem. He is here, but he's not quite here yet. He's with us. But I've just fixed that for the moment, temporarily. But Grem is going to be with us very, very soon, as I say. Thank you for that, Andrew. The other one is Yorkshire tea. Now, I can't believe you said that, Andrew, because actually I am a massive fan of Yorkshire tea. That's all I drink. If I'm at work, I'll drink PG Tips. If I'm at home, I'll drink Yorkshire tea. And if I'm really lucky, I'll take some Yorkshire tea bags with me to work, because you can't beat a Yorkshire tea bag. Others might disagree, but that's up to them. Lee says Yorkshire tea has turned out to be... oh no, that's what he just said that, hasn't he? No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't said that. He says Yorkshire tea... Yorkshire tea, it turns out that they contain plastic, which was annoying because that's my preference. No, absolutely, Lee. Exactly what I'm saying. So I'm saying the fact that I'm probably digesting, or ingesting, should I say, too much plastic without me even knowing about it. I'm worried about that. You might not see me in the next few days. I might need to go away somewhere, get my head straight on that, because I might have to change my tea bag. Lisa says, I went over to lose tea leaves, not knowing plastic in the tea bag. Yeah. Well, that's an option. Loose tea. But anyway, guys, it's been a huge pleasure in reading out your comments, but that's not why we're here. As much as you've saved some time for us before we officially get going with the show, I just want to say, actually, before I go, another one's come in. Sade says, Yorkshire tea is good. Definitely your favourite too. Yeah, absolutely, Sade. It is my favourite. I love it. I cannot get enough of Yorkshire tea. I like coffee, all right, but sometimes with coffee, it's only good for certain times of the day, like in the morning, first thing. You know, if you're a worker and you start at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, you need a cup of coffee. It gets you going. And then maybe in an evening, but obviously you don't want too much coffee because it's got more caffeine, unless you go low caffeine, of course, low calorie, all that sort of stuff. Then, of course, you're not going to be affected when it comes to going to bed. But tea is just, I think it's just a nice balance. It's refreshing, and yeah, drum roll for Grem. Absolutely, Andrew. Drum roll, bring in the Gremster. Yes, and I can confirm he is with us now, ladies and gentlemen. He is with us. 100% agree on the coffee, Sade says. No, totally, Sade. But no, guys, thank you very much. Continue to watch us because we have some more for you. We are not going just yet. We want to bring you straight into me and Grem, the Ben and Grem Show, as you know it. And enjoy. Hello, Grem. Hello, Graham. Start again. Sorry.
Apologies for the lateness, everyone.
Better late than never, Graham, as they say. You know the one.
Yeah, I know.
Never a problem, Graham. I'm just privileged to be with you again because, after all, you know, what is the show without Ben and Graham? It's not anything without the Ben and Graham. But no, it's fine, Graham, because what we've just spoken about, really, with the viewers, and many that we've got in tonight, is just a bit about what's going on in their lives, and that's what's mostly important. So, you know, it's all been good. Graham says, no, sorry, Lisa says hi to Graham, and everybody's been screaming out. Graham, everybody's been screaming out for you. We've had Lee. We've had Andrew. They've all been asking where the Graham is, and they wanted a drum roll. And in fact, if I'd have got me sounds,
drum roll,
they would have got one, Graham.
Go on, give them a drum roll.
A drum roll? All right, okay, why not? Okay, let's do this. I don't even know where they are, but we'll have a look for these sounds, shall we? Yeah, let's do that. Can you remember where I put the sounds, Graham? Have I got to do it myself?
We just make one up.
No.
I'll tell you what, everybody at home, do your own drum roll. Yes, we heard that. Thank you.
Yeah, drum roll. No, I found it. No, I haven't. But I have got this. And this is just for you, Graham.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Please, thank you. It really is.
It's all for you, Graham. Well, it's better than a drum roll, wasn't it? That was the crowd. That's the chat that just made that noise for you, Graham. All right, that was the chat. Your sound efforts are ace, Ben. Sound effects. No, well, they're not mine. I found them on the internet. Whoever's they are, thank you. The art of downloading, isn't it, Grim? McDonald's coffee. Andrew says Starbucks is my favourite coffee. McDonald's coffee is the second choice for coffee. Well, interesting. Yeah, actually, it is Starbucks, Costa, and Starbucks. Hang on. Yeah, Costa, Starbucks, and McDonald's. They are tasty, aren't they? Don't know what they use. Graham, I think it's about time I got started with you, isn't it? Because we need to get on with this show, don't we? Because, I mean, any more waffle for me and the guys are going to go, right? They are going to go. So it's about time. I mean, let me know when you're ready, all right? And take the mic, because that's exactly what needs to happen here. Because everybody knows that when Ben gets going, he doesn't stop. And waffle is an understatement, isn't it, Graham?
I have another issue. Personal. My mum. I've got to make a quick call, so I apologise. Can you wrap it on for a bit longer?
No, that's not a problem, Graham. Not a problem, because like we've got plenty of time. So there, guys. What's going on? What's going on? Bang on the table, Lisa says. Bang on the table. Yeah, no, that's exactly what they do. It's like pubs, isn't it? If you're playing poker in a pub, you're banging on the table. Or if you've had too much to drink and you get told off by the barmaid. Or barman. That's a possibility, isn't it? Yeah. I remember when I was younger, I used to have a pub that I used to go to regularly. And in that pub, I used to play bands, and it was great. I used to love a live band, right? Rock band, heavy metal, I was into it all. And I remember we got a little bit rowdy because we'd had a few drinks, and we would just jump up and down. We'd do what we call moshing. Now, back in the 60s and 70s, and Lee, you're young enough to know about this, moshing was something that people did, you know, and it was jumping up and down. It was quite a funny little dance, you know. But then as time's gone on, I think the modern day society had kind of modernised it, and it became a bit of a rough and tumble. And my experiences on that was quite dramatic in some cases. Yeah, health and safety. Wouldn't be able to do it these days. I remember in the early 2000s, I think it might have been mid 2000s, I went to see a concert. I went to see Angels and Airwaves in concert in London Astoria. I think it's now knocked down, but actually London Astoria was rocking with Angels and Airwaves, and I remember moshing equally, and we were talking a few thousand people running into one spot. It was horrific. I'm still here though. I think I lost my shoe. I had to go and find it. Took a while. What's the agenda for tonight's show? Well, thank you, Lisa, because usually, you may be aware, like many of you that are watching, we don't tend to put up the agenda on the Ben and Grem Show page, do we? And I think actually we're going to start doing that, because I think it's important, because what we want to try and do, Lee, Lisa. So we want to try and get everybody to understand what we're going to be discussing, so at least people have an idea before we come on, and then maybe if they wish to, they can, be further more engaged. What's on the agenda? Right. Well, I could start, but I would rather hold on just for two more seconds because Grem is going to open us on this. All right, and it's his position to do that, and I wouldn't want to step on his toes, because it'd hurt. So I'm not going to do that. But yeah, bang on the table. Yeah, I will probably do that, but it might go a bit deafening on the ears. Yeah, punk rock days. They were very much so. Even late 90s, early 2000s. You know, a lot of the bands were still punk rock. There used to be a band that I used to see. I don't know if you know about it, Lee. I don't know if anybody of you in the chat, particularly that come from the southeast. But I don't think they were just solely the southeast. I think they also played up and down the country. But a band called Jester, you may or may not have heard. Well, they were a punk band. And I don't even know they're still going. You may know yourselves. I'm not so sure. But yeah, you know, look them up. They're good. I think you probably will find something on them. There was also another band I used to follow, actually, called Talon. And they were a cover band. They did their own stuff as well. But they actually did covers. And they were really, really good. Really good. And I remember following them everywhere. I literally did the Kent circuit with them. In the back of the van it was. Well, not quite like that, but I had my car. But yeah, roadie. Lisa says Leeds and Liverpool Saturday. Yes, indeed. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting game. I am nervous, Lisa. I'm sure much to the pleasure of your good partner. He's probably smiling at this conversation. It's going to be a tough game, but I think we're not going to roll over, are we? We're going to give it our all, obviously. Sade, I used to be a scene kid. Yeah, totally, Sade. I mean, there's nothing better when you're going out with a group of friends, you're going to a pub, and there's a live band on. You still get it nowadays. I think as you get older, things change, don't they? You get commitments, you get responsibilities, and you don't maybe get on the scene so much. But you know, quite honestly, yeah, you've got to love a good band. There's nothing better than going to a pub, having a few drinks, and watching a live band. Yeah, definitely. 1-on-1 prediction. 1-1 prediction. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully. Well, if we can get a draw out of it, Lisa, I think we're on to something. Not unrealistic. Why not? Love live bands, such a good fun. Yes, yes, Sade. Yes, yeah, they're absolutely really good fun. Really, really do enjoy a good live band. Grem is now ready for action. We have him back, ladies and gentlemen, and let's just bring him in, shall we? And he hasn't come back yet because I haven't pressed the right buttons. Here he is.
I
Who
don't
left me in
mind.
charge with buttons, Grem? Was it your idea or mine?
Buttons?
Hmm.
I didn't quite catch what you were saying.
Well, I'm always good at pushing buttons anyway, and usually. For better or for
Well,
worse.
we won't go there, will we?
No, let's not. Let's not.
We're best of friends.
Lee.
That's all that matters.
Grem.
Yes.
Lee says he's just bought some tickets to go to the Forum Tunbridge Wells. If anybody wants to go to see Space, a massive band from the 90s who are still going. Not heard of them myself. I'm sure they're worth looking up. There's nothing better than seeing, Lee, is there? New bands on the scene that no one heard of before. And actually, what we're going to try and do, guys, in fact, what we're going to try and get into the habit of doing, I was going to say, is that when we start our shows in future, sometimes we're going to start with a video, as we did earlier. And sometimes we're going to start with a little bit of music. And that music, because we can't get permission for all the music we play, for copyright reasons, we are going to try and play up-and-coming bands that maybe haven't got an agent yet or looking to increase their popularity, in which case we can use their stuff. And it's promotion in some cases as well. So we were talking with the production team, weren't we, Grem? And Lee come up with this idea as well. And I think that's the way forward, because after all, we're trying to advertise ourselves as much as they are trying to advertise their music. So we're all helping each other, isn't it? That's what it's all about. Right.
My camera is I've taken it back a bit, but I think it needs to go back further. This is fun. This is tonight.
It is actually. Well,
this is like the old days, isn't it?
It does feel a bit like that, Graham. It does. It's a bit off the cuff, isn't it? Tonight.
I don't like it. I don't like off the cuff.
But you're loving it.
Well, yeah. Look, you can't turn me into you. I'll probably hang myself.
Right.
If I was you.
Yes. Gamer Nick. He says it's Kevin, by the way. Of course it is Kevin. Kevin, I'm terrible with names. You know me. I am always forgetting a name. That's why I call him Grem, because if I have to remember Graham, I'll forget. Isn't that right, Graham?
Yeah. I'm going to stand up just for a moment, just so I can sort the camera, please.
Okay.
Everybody.
Right. I'll take the eyes off of you then, Graham. Just bear with me. 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Graham is just going to adjust himself, but let me just say, Kevin, that I hope you're well. I mean, I haven't seen you for ages, mate. All right. Even if you are a Liverpool supporter, 1-1. All right. Do it for us. I can get you a band. Yes, that would be great if you don't mind. You will know them. Had some great tracks, Lee said. This is the band that Lee was referring to earlier, which was the band called Space. Andrew says he also knows the band called Space. He didn't know they were on, still going on, which is interesting. And on the subject, I will check Space out myself. But yeah, please, guys, if you've got, let me just say, if you've got, on behalf of the Ben and Grem Show, if you've got any music that you want us to play on the show, running up to the start of our shows, we would be overjoyed. We'd be more than happy to do that, because actually, do you know, I'm a fan, Grem, and maybe some of you in the chat. I'm a gamer, right? I like playing the odd game here and there, and I play FIFA. And every single year when FIFA comes out, FIFA put a soundtrack to the game. And the soundtrack is usually bands that nobody has heard of. And they got some really catchy songs. And then later on you see them on Spotify, and then they've made it. And so for the same reason, it'd be great to get some new music, because actually you can get some really catchy stuff, and then next thing you know, you'll go, oh, I remember, I heard this song, it was on the Ben and Grem Show. That's kind of where we're going, Grem, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, guys, massive help. We're all in this together. The Ben and Grem Show is about all of us. It's not just about me and him, or me and you, Grem, or you and I. Graham, your camera is fine, mate. I don't know what you mean. Graham,
well, it is now, because I've taken the lens back. You can see more of me.
Yeah, you do look good, Graham. You do. The camera was made for you, mate, I think.
Oh, God.
Maybe zoom out for 4% and raise it up a couple of degrees. Is that me or Graham, Andrew?
I've zoomed out as most as I can, because if I zoom out any more, you get some of the floor. So we can't have that.
No, we can't have that. But look, now people can see you, because they could hear you, but they couldn't see you, Graham. But now you're back in the room, all right? We are now live. The two of us are live. Me and you. Yes. Lovely jubbly. Right. Lee says he bought an EP from a new band called The Snuts. A London-based group who I reckon will get a bit further. Well, Lee.
The Snuts. The Snuts or the Snots?
The Snuts.
Oh, the Snuts.
Sugar. All Sierra, November. Uniform. Tango. Sierra? Yeah. I think something like that.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Snuts. Yeah, well, look them out. Look them up. Well, if we can get some snuts on our show, we'll be happy, won't we, Graham? He's also been following, Lee says, a band called The Sports Team for a couple of years, who have also just brought out their first album. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, again, now they might be a bit difficult to use, Lee, won't they, Graham? Because I think with that, you know, we've got to get to the point of, well, they've probably got an agent by now. If they brought out an album, they've probably got an agent. So we'd need permission for them, because YouTube don't like it. Or at least Facebook don't, that's for sure. Both cameras are perfect, Andrew says. Thank you very much, Andrew, for your kind intervention there. Lisa says, hi, Graham. All looking good. She knows you well.
Yes, well, I've got an awful lot of hair product in tonight. Not going anywhere. Oh, look, I've just seen something at the back. Can't have that.
Grem.
Oh, look at that. That's awful.
You're not going bald, are you, mate?
I don't know, but I had a nosebleed this morning.
Yeah. Whose fault was that?
On my own. I got so flipping stressed. I've worked myself right up.
Well, Graham, just want to talk to you about Lisa for a minute. And Lisa's here, obviously watching the stream. She talked about a new group she's trying to organise within the town.
Is this the veterans group?
It is. Do you know all about it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I have spoke to Lisa briefly about it, but if there's anything new, we would definitely help support that. Well, I believe Ben would be in for it. So, well, it's, yeah, wouldn't you? Be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. I was just reading, Graham, some comments.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just reading some comments there because Lisa was trying to help us out here with some copyright subjects, because she's saying as long as you state that the artist's material is not of your own, and you give them sole rights of ownership, or reference their work as not being your own, I think then, I think you're right, Lisa. I think you have to still get permission, I think, depending on the material. Some people don't even like you displaying it at all. I've had a couple of strikes. Not strikes, Graham. We haven't had strikes, but we've had a couple of little flags, and I've just sort of rectified it. So I do, Lisa. If I use a piece of material, I usually actually, I do tend to put up a little note just to say, actually, this is the kind work of this person, and we're using it on behalf of. So
and I think if you have it up, do you have it up whilst it's playing the whole time? Yeah.
Yes.
Because if those viewing want to take a look at the Facebook page, as everyone knows me, I'm a major Kylie fan. I go a bit mental over her. Well, I wouldn't chuck her out of bed, basically. I don't think any guy would. But changing the subject slightly, I've done a video. Well, it was not a short video. It went on for a bit. I had to pause it because otherwise you would have had about 4 or 5 songs before she actually came on the radio and introduced the new song. And before I actually did make the decision to do so, I did check up on copyright, Lisa, and there is another way as well. Exactly what you said came up in the text, and the other item that came up was if you talk occasionally throughout the song, then basically it's not classed as a full song, so it's not like recordable. People can't sort of download it, record it, and not pay for it because you're conducting yourself throughout the song. So we could do something like that, maybe.
Well, we certainly could, Graham. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it, to do that?
Oh, and it's had 751 views. That's because I went a bit mental and was a bit sad, everyone, and I put it on a lot of Kylie sites. That's why I've got those views. Otherwise, I doubt I probably had about 3 or 4. Yeah, all me.
Nothing wrong with Kylie, Graham. Nothing wrong with her at all. She's still looking good at her age, though, isn't she? I mean, Kylie just doesn't seem to get old, does she? Really?
No, I think some of it's got to be makeup now. But yeah.
No, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, look, I can't get too excited before 9 o'clock. Shall we move on?
Yes, let's do that because, yes. Well, what we'll do, Graham, is I'm just going to wrap up with some of the live comments and then we're going to go straight into our first
yes,
topic.
please.
Yeah.
Fine.
So Lisa says yes. I don't even know what she says yes to. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but state copyright. Yes, yes. She's replying to the copyright subject. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
So just make a mention, isn't it? Make a mention. Andrew says you need the rights to the music, otherwise you will get a community strike. Yes, you will. That's right. You need to really ask the owner if you can use the material. Sometimes, and I have found that you might find some music, and they might put it up for you to use, but on the basis that you give the description information around them, so that people can find who the original source of the owner is.
Oh, yes.
And I've
Yeah,
used
I've
some
done
material
that,
in the
I've
past,
done
Graham,
that.
haven't we, where we've done that. Lee says, unfortunately, the only way to use other material is to get prior permission or subscribe to PRS for a license. Yes, you're absolutely right, Lee, and you know this yourself with the line of work you do. He is right. We do need a license to actually get permission to air certain things, and of course, depends on how the Ben and Grem show goes. Because I mean, we've already got trademarks now, Graham, haven't we, and copyrights on certain things already.
Yeah.
But that's only for the stuff that we create naturally, and we can't claim ownership to other people's material. So we do need to get a license, and of course, if we feel it's necessary, we'll do that. Let's just see if the viewers keep going up, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Lee says is 100% correct. Lee is 100% correct. Andrew says yes, and he also says, Andrew, that bots will take away the live stream if there is too much of a strike or two. Kevin, thank you, Kevin. He says he loves a bit of Kylie since he was 7. Should I be so lucky? Should be so lucky. Yeah.
No, she's mine, mate. She's mine. She's all mine.
There you go. You got competition there, Graham. Kevin's on the scene. Right, Graham. Any last words on that?
No, none at all. None
Right.
at all.
So in that case, is it right to say then that we open up with our first topic, Graham?
Yes, I believe so. We're going to discuss our main topic of this evening is in regards to the recent protest by the pro-support side of the migrants coming to shore. But before we go into that, there's a little bit of a pre-sequel to it, involving our MP, Conservative MP, NATALIE ELPHICKE. She basically pleaded through her social media and through news interviews for people to basically stay away from the anti side and not to come down to the planned protest. Lost my train of thought now. This is annoying. My phone's gone off. My teleprompter. This is hilarious tonight. Come back on again. What's it gone off? Sorry, I will get back to it. What a nightmare. This. Oh, I'll just skip past it. Basically, to stay away from the planned I nearly said it again. Protest. Obviously, the group did not do so, and they did turn up. But the police were out in force. The Kent police arranged the necessary police support. I think it was basically near enough doubled as well compared to the last time in 2016. I believe, if I'm not correct, please someone correct me in the feed. I think it was 2016. That's from memory. That one. Well, basically, there was a situation where the protesters from anti-immigration I'm doing this again. This is a nightmare. They basically took over the A20 road in the centre of the road down towards the Bradley area and sat on both sides of the road, both directions, and halted traffic. It caused a hell of a backlog going up towards Folkestone, and that went on for quite a while until the police were able to remove them on. And it's like a dominoes effect, isn't it? You know, when you've got not a backlog of traffic, it takes time for it all to pick up speed again. I don't believe there was much of an incident going on. Within the news reports, it states that up to 10 people, they believe up to 10 people. And I've looked at a few different stories, and they're all the same. They say around 10 or up to 10, 10 plus. So it's probably about 8, because the media do like to, you know, enhance the story a little bit sometimes. So let's stick with 10 for now. So 10 people were arrested from the anti-migration protest group that attended. I believe as well, they weren't doing themselves any favors by basically chanting and singing inappropriate words, and it was basically placing them in a more of a negative light. I don't know why these people just can't just turn up and just walk quietly. Why do they have to shout and scream? And but that's my own personal opinion. There's no need for it, really. I don't know what Ben has to add to the topic, but I can come back after.
Well, Graham, thank you, and perfectly put. And I think the viewers took that information rather well. Thank you, Graham. To be honest, I agree that, you know, I think one of the things in particular that the MP has referred to, NATALIE ELPHICKE, is that it is or should be actually considered to be a waste of public funding. You know, it's better use being spent elsewhere, i.e. on police resources, than to, you could say...
Exactly. Definitely elsewhere, Ben, with regards to the statement that she did actually release. Yeah, so, you know, people were rightly, they were right, they are right to feel angry and upset with the situation on migration coming into Britain by small boats, as it's completely unacceptable. I know with that comment, she actually did get an awful lot of stick as well with the terminology she used, and I think she probably deserved that stick, because I don't know if I would use those words myself. I mean, it's not really ideal.
Well, I think, Graham, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's a very sensitive subject, and I think you have to be, don't you, particularly careful about how you approach, how you craft your words when it comes to things like migrants and what view of which you take and how you approach the subject. I think actually, I think she's been doing okay. I mean, she talks a good game. I think the lady in question, Priti Patel, she does. Yeah, you know Priti Patel is the Home Secretary. That's right, isn't it, Graham?
Yes.
Yes, of course it is. But I was actually referring to her actually in my point. Although we were talking about Charlie Elphick's wife, which is NATALIE ELPHICKE. But so Priti Patel, she has to put it firmly, and she does do that. And I think it's fair to say she maybe is not too keen on the idea of the movement of the way it's being done, obviously. And that goes toe for toe with the likes of NATALIE ELPHICKE. And NATALIE ELPHICKE doesn't feel that it's necessary that, you know, the police and the emergency services are using such resources to tackle situations like this, protests, in an area of time where we are suffering from coronavirus. But Graham, we did actually have somebody come in on this on the chat and ask us about who the group was, and that was Andrew, and thank you, Andrew. And so what I can tell you is it's an event which was referred to as We Stand With You event, and it was organised by the Kent Racism Network, Graham, wasn't it, Khan?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it was organised by them, and they got the necessary instructions together to be able to take part in the protest. And once that news got out, and that's when the anti-migration protesters got involved in organising themselves to come down. The event was planned for 12 noon, as NATALIE ELPHICKE has stated in her statement earlier. The day earlier when she was interviewed by, I believe it was Meridian Tonight that she was on. And she also went on to discuss the priority of police funding that Ben brought up, saying that it should be spent elsewhere where it's needed, rather than being wasted on a group of people attending to possibly maybe cause some anxiety with the original group that were given the consent for their protests on that specific day. So she has a point there. She also brought up in regards to the coronavirus pandemic and the possibility of a local spike if things did get out of hand. But what was noticed and what was actually reported in a few media outlets and documentation was the anti-protest group. Most of them, the majority of them, were well behaved, and they were wearing face masks, but they was also carrying placards and England flags, and I believe they were like chanting as well, inappropriately, like "We are England till we die." You know, it's when they do something like that, it's not really sending the good enough message, is it? It's sending an extremely negative message. So I suppose they should maybe feel that some of the stick that they get themselves is warranted in some respect when they can be that way. What do you feel on that, Ben?
Well, yeah, I think you've touched on the point very, very well, Grem. One of the things in particular was the MP, the local MP, NATALIE ELPHICKE. She was referring to the fact that she didn't want the protest to continue or to take place simply because of the potential second wave of COVID-19. She was thinking more of the worries around further infections. I got it. It was quite peaceful, from what I understand to know. There was two groups, one of which was, I think, situated around the Market Square, Grem, and I think there was another group that came up from a road, Limekiln Road, through into Snargate Street. It could be the other way around. But
yes.
Anyhow, as much as they were marching...
That's correct.
That's correct. As much as they were marching, Graham, and talking out loud and expressing their views, it was peaceful, to the point being no violence took place, I think it's fair to say. However, some have questioned the way maybe the police had conducted themselves towards a particular group, which maybe was seen to be uncalled for. However, some would also say, well, actually all they were doing was moving the march on. So it depends on which way you look at it. But we have a Hope Not Hate, which is one group, an anti-fascist organisation, Hope Not Hate, previously warned of violence. They were alongside the Kent Anti-Racism Network and the Chelsea football lads. I mean, I don't quite know this, Graham, as to why maybe they were referenced. Because actually, if you look at the now this gets me going a little bit, Graham, and I'm just going to jump off on one here a little bit. So we look at the situation around the two groups, Graham, yeah? And so we know that we've got the pro-migration, right? And fine, we understand what they're about, at least, we think. But then you've got the anti-immigration, right? But the anti-immigration has been referred to in the press by being far right. I just find that a little bit strange.
Yes, I mean, that is one, that is a point further on. I was going to bring up that in the majority, if not 99% of the media documents and news programs, that term is used, and it's sometimes I think it's used. Would you say out of context, maybe? And it's just a group of people expressing their views, and as long as they are behaving reasonably. Yes, there's going to be a few raised tones.
Yeah.
As long as there's not the screaming and the shouting and the destruction side of things, then why do they need to be labelled as far right?
Well, the thing is, Grem, is I'm of the view, and if I'm a journalist, right, I would be looking at it as this. I'd be saying to myself, right, we've got a protest, we've got for and against, all right, and that's always what happens when you have a protest. You have one group of individuals that go out and they push an argument, and then another group of individuals come out and they back an argument otherwise, the argument that they're pushing. So with that said, if you're going to label these groups, it's best to do so. If you're going to say far right, then you've got to then say far left. If you say left, then you've got to say right. The point being is it's politics. And I do fear sometimes that the general press, can actually be politically persuaded when it comes to writing articles for the goodness of us, the people of the street. And for example, you know, these far right individuals were referred to as far right. Having said that, if you look at a lot of the footage, we're looking at men and children. We're looking at women and children. We're looking at people holding flags up, which is actually our national identity. Well, there's nothing racist or far right about that. And, you know, I think realistically, what we've got to try and establish here is the cause of the problem. Now, regardless of whether you're pro-immigration or anti-immigration, regardless of whether you're one side or the other, we have to start to look at why this situation is occurring in the first place. There's a breakdown in legislation. It's a breakdown between us and the European Union and the European Union's intervention upon how they conduct migration across Europe and elsewhere. It's broken. The system is broken. And so for that reason, it's causing upset. Now, there are good men, women and children, not so much women and children, or children, should I say, but there's women and men out there, very moderate thinkers, now, you could say normal, but let's say normal, what's normal these days? But normal, let's say run-of-the-mill people, families or otherwise, elderly, regardless, are getting to a point now where they're upset and concerned by the lack of impetus from the government. But Graham, do you want to pick up further on that? Because we're getting a lot of comments coming in on this subject.
Oh.
Well, here, let me just jig your brain a little bit, Graham, because Lisa's saying that the group in towns, the Market Square, were more Labour members and supporters. Okay, Lisa.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, we know they're pro.
Yeah, exactly. The mayor from Dill attended, and the political persuasion she came with was the Labour Party, and also the mayor from our nearby town as well, Folkestone, which was Labour affiliated as well. Yeah. So it does bring you back to the comment that Ben made a moment or so ago in regards to it's a political argument. It's that it's like a vote, grab a vote day or something, maybe. You know, I might be wrong to what people's views themselves.
Thing is, what really gets me, Graham, is that take the Labour Party, right? And I'm not going to pick on Labour, all right? That's not what I'm going to do. But I'm going to say this, regardless of it being Labour, I cannot understand why you've got these political parties, locally or nationally, who take to streets campaigning with a majority of individuals, you know, in such a way when actually we know that the Labour Party in particular have impetus, they have involvement in local government and national government, they have power. So I can't understand why, if they want to exercise this power, that they don't do that within the areas of which they can. You know, if you've got smaller fringe parties, you can understand, or groups, you can understand why they might take to the streets and protest, because they haven't got the political power or involvement to be able to change anything. Whereas Labour, I've never understood, because they've got power. They have got power with the Conservatives. Not so much, but they have nonetheless, and are able to table motions and so forth in those Houses of Parliament And so I don't understand why they have to take to the streets. But then that's, you could say the same for the Conservatives if they are doing the same in certain areas on certain subjects. You know, they have power, but fringe parties don't. So I can understand the fringe parties going out there and making a stand, because after all, it's all about support, isn't it? And Labour have already got support, and so that of Conservatives. So it doesn't make sense to me why you see these out and about. And if I'm honest with you, it just causes tension because there's somebody to shout at, aren't they? Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're improving anything.
Definitely.
Yeah, so Lee says about the press. He says about the way that the press are left-leaning. It seems media in general, they do tend to lean and stance their write-ups on the view of one side over the other, which is sad to say is true. It shouldn't be done that way. I just can't understand why they couldn't have just worded it, Grem, pro and anti-immigration march. I mean, that would have worked.
Yeah, just, you know, I mean, both sets have extremely strong views and beliefs on what they believe in.
Yeah.
So, but I've always noticed that, and we had a little bit of a to and fro with messaging, didn't we, on a post that I joined on Facebook. I think I followed along yourself, Ben, and I commented my view, and the individual that won't disclose names commented what he needed to comment, but it was like those on the centre right side of the political spectrum, their affiliation of the party that they wish to choose to follow, are automatically far right, and that's the way it seems to be. But what I'm getting to, sorry, is that anyone from the left side of politics seem to be able to, if necessary, cause a ruckus or a situation that spirals way out of control, and there's damage, and lots of damage, and there's you know, windows smashed and cars like torched and stuff. But you never ever see in the media or in newspapers and anything that refers to them as being far left. It's a group of people with extreme views on something, but they're never classed as a negative. It always seems to be the case. That's what I feel when I look at it.
Well, there's some statistics for you, Grem, and for the viewers. It comes to a figure of 409 people that successfully made the perilous travel journey across the Channel earlier this week. And the interesting thing, of course, is it's now brought the figure to in a single day. That was actually, I'd like to add, it's brought the figure to a total this year of 5,600 migrants, which is a significant number when you look at that from previous years. But the interesting enough, Grem, and something that Lee said, and I'll bring some others into the conversation as well, because of course we got Lisa talking about various topics of the subject. Lee says, and he doesn't understand why this is, and it's a very, very good question. He says he doesn't understand why those that travel to seek safety and a better life have to do so under the consideration of going to a safe country they choose to go through to us, i.e. United Kingdom, when actually they've got to pass several safe countries prior to getting to us, i.e. like France. Why would they then get to France, which in many cases is considered a safe country, very Christian, very, very ethical, but then they come over to the UK? Some would argue the subject, Graham, wouldn't they, that it's economic migrants, economic reasons, and not actually for reasons solely down to seeking from war and persecution. But of course it depends on which way you look at it, who you speak to. What do you take on that, Graham? I mean, I feel, me personally, that there is no reason, is there, for anybody when travelling to seek a better life, to escape a life of danger and torture and death, if that's what they're doing, and some areas is probably right in some cases. But then you wouldn't mind, would you, Graham, if you're getting away from that place, as long as you're going to a considered safe place. There's many safe places in Europe, isn't there?
Yes, I mean, when these individuals they make this journey, they are leaving a safe country, but they're leaving close by, you know, the bordering countries onto France as well. You know, that even Germany as such, everywhere, you know, Belgium and you name it, they're all safe countries.
Yeah, and Graham, and just following on from this topic, and it's really good actually that everyone's engaging as much as they are, because it does bring us on to Lisa's point. And Lisa is talking about a famous footballer, presenter as well, Gary Lineker. Now, Graham, Gary Lineker has been speaking out about how he would be willing to house migrants if the situation came to it. Now, I actually heard something that was said on the television by a man called Nigel Farage, and he said, but would Gary Lineker house somebody who had been from Syria who would be considered under a terrorist watch? The question is probably not the answer to the question. But the point is also, okay, but how many has he actually taken in? We get this, don't we, Graham? We hear this of celebrities. They say, oh, you know, we're going to do our bit. We're going to take in migrants.
Well, I think it's just, I think it's singular. I think it's just one. I think he's taken in, because I think he said it himself in a news article. So that he's taking one migrant into his family home.
But the problem with this message, Graham, and it's deeper. The problem with this message, isn't it, is that we're getting these people in the limelight that are worth a lot of money, who have a lot of background, who have a lot of pull, say things like this, and what that then does is it gives more influence to those wanting to seek to get here for all the wrong reasons, it seems. And it's an advertisement. It's an advertisement. It's not right. It's not correct. It's not meant to be done this way. We shouldn't be saying to the world, come to us. You know, it's the wrong message. And Gary Lineker should know better. You know, whether he believes migrants should be here under these conditions or not is his opinion, of course. But what he has to appreciate is, and I think he does, but I think this is the problem on the subject, isn't it? Where you get people that don't want to see it for what it is it's the way that people are coming. It's the way that they are getting round legislation and a system that is designed to be fair for all. It's then seen to be unfair for those trying to be fair about it. You know, you have to go through a process. And the question is, Graham, and the problem is, I should say, is that the problem with the legislation, to my understanding at the moment, is that when you've got a movement of a migrant coming in from Europe over to the United Kingdom, it comes to understand to know that actually when that individual, man or woman, opens the file for their asylum case, it's that country then has to deal with it. Now, if they're getting through from France into the UK and they open their case up within the UK, then it's then the UK's responsibility to deal with them. And this is where the loophole is, you see, because actually...
Well, I mean, straight away, why is, for example, the pro group not arguing this fact that these poor individuals, because a majority of them just obviously want a better life.
Of course.
They're stuck in these camps in disgusting conditions. And everyone has seen the news reports and so on. And I believe that they probably are only that's the only factual thing that's coming out of the media, maybe, at the moment, in regards to the camps. But why aren't these groups actually thinking this? Why, you know, why? Surely that should be coming up in the head. You know, they should be going, oh, hang on, why hasn't France or Germany opened up a file on these individuals? Because they obviously want to move them on and to the United Kingdom. There can be no other reason why there's such a major delay in them opening a file.
Well, yeah, but this is their plan, isn't it? They open the file within the UK, and then therefore then it's the UK's jurisdiction then to look after them. Now, whether that means housing them and feeding them, clothing them, that's all part and parcel of the problem. But you know, you've got this situation, Graham, haven't you? Whereas you've got, you know, take those that are coming in, people say, well, actually, regardless of whether you're pro or anti-immigration, you've got these people that say, oh, you know, but we are helping. You know, we're paying our taxes. We are paying our taxes, and that tax goes to the government, and then that ensures that the system for immigration goes into place. So we are paying for a system that does work, and that system is being ignored by individuals that are trafficking. And that's where the problem lies. That's why people, I think, are so infuriated, because good people like us, Graham, and the many people out there on the street and in the working world are paying their taxes for a system that the government has implemented and is working, to then be undermined by people trafficking. And let's not forget, Graham, we've got these people traffickers that are trafficking people, and we're not talking just a few £100s here. You know, you've got people spending up between £5,000 to £10,000 to get to the UK. Now, these people aren't exactly short of a few bob. So for that reason, you know, you have to argue that these people, if they're coming here for economic reasons, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, Graham, personally. But again, you know, one would also scratch their head.
I totally agree. And
yeah,
it's just an awful situation. You know, these individuals, they are crossing an extremely busy, you know, shipping lane.
Indeed.
It's just not safe, and you know, the priority here should be that they are deterred from taking that journey because of the likely that there is a likelihood. There's a, I would say, quite a high percentage of chance that they may lose their lives, and who, you know, no one wants to see that happen. I don't want to see that happen. I don't believe you or either, Ben, would want to see that happen. The whole point is that we need to keep these individuals safe, so they should be kept safe where they basically are. You know, there needs to be necessary safeguards put in place to do this.
I agree. Emma Francis, nice to have you on board. Thank you for joining the stream. I'm glad you're with us. Of course, involving yourself in the communication, always important. Yeah, I agree, Graham. You know, we've got to look at the situation, haven't we? And nobody, regardless of what side you sit on, nobody wants to see people come to harm. Nobody wants to see people, you know, with misfortune. We all want to see everybody doing the best they can in life. But that can still be done prior to people doing things properly. I mean, you know, nobody's going to be happy with criminality. I mean, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And this is what this subject's about. It's about getting something for nothing. Or should we say, getting something that's not entitled to you. And it's people that are maybe utilising loopholes to ensure that they get that. And that's where I think the fury comes from. And, you know, we are a small nation after all. We are, as always, doing our bit. All countries across the continents are doing their bit when it comes to migration. But, you know, there has to become a time where we as a country, as a government, has to say enough's enough. We have to have a certain amount of which we can allow ourselves to involve ourselves with, because after all, it will have an effect on the economy. Now, I don't care, me personally, Graham, I don't care what anybody says. You know, it will have an effect on the economy because we've got to look after these people. It comes out of our taxes. It has to. So
exactly. I mean, the case that we need to actually think of as well is the fact that each country has a quota of refugees that they have signed to give a better life to, and these are refugees from known war-torn areas and like Syria, for example, and that they're already allocated, you know, to come here or in France or Germany or wherever in Europe. They have an allocation to take a certain amount. I think ours is around about 4,000, 4,500. It's something like that, like per year. But what if the number is deducted in regards, it possibly is being deducted, isn't it? If you think about it, with that quota, and therefore there's if at the moment it's using the words which can be picked up on and used negatively back, but it's taking away that opportunity for a refugee that is a refugee, and as Ben mentioned earlier, a lot of reports out there that it's economic migration, which does seem to be roughly the case in some circumstances when you see some of these migrants that obviously want a better life. Everyone wants to have a better life. We all do ourselves, but they do arrive with, like, if not the latest iPhone, a few iPhones down, or Levi's jeans, or really decent trainers and quite nice clothes.
Exactly. Grem, isn't it time for a piece of pointless news?
Pointless news. Yeah, I believe it is, because we've sort of skipped into point 2 quite well without realising. Yeah,
we have.
So majority of that, taken. There is a little bit of point,
and it's time for the pointless news.
Oh, go on then.
Pointless news.
I love that. Never gets old. Just once more, Graham. Can we do it once more?
Yeah, whack it up.
Pointless news.
Right, pointless news. What do we have? First topic, pointless news. And that starts with me. Oh dear. Have you not heard enough from me?
No.
Kate Beckinsale, Graham, has posted a video of her reaction after an anonymous fan sent a pretty unsettling gift to her house. Now, some of you may have heard the story already. Kate Beckinsale, she had basically a fan send her a rabbit to her house, but it wasn't just a rabbit.
Wow.
It wasn't just a rabbit. It was also some flowers. I mean, fancy that. You're a celebrity and you get a random gift at your door. A rabbit. She has said, however, that she would plead with fans not to send any gifts in the future, but she's very much grateful, but somewhat worried because of the impact of the fact that now the animal needs to be rehomed. What do you make of that?
Yes. Well, opening a door to basically find a caged rabbit, a carefully arranged bunch of flowers, but I believe there was actually no note, was there? There was no note who the gifts were from, except for just one little piece of paper that stated the rabbit's name. So they actually gave the rabbit a name. I mean, it must have been quite a surprise look for her, mustn't it? Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, that. I mean, it must have come attached with I don't know, feelings of thankfulness in a way. But what made it stranger further, as I mentioned, is that there was no note that basically said who the gift was from. So yeah, it was a pretty strange state of affairs there. Yeah. I can continue, but if you can chat.
Well, I don't think there's much more to say about it, really, Graham. After all, celebrities get nice gifts. But to have one on your doorstep is a bit strange, isn't it? But no, thank you to the fan. I'm sure she was very grateful. But maybe ask her first. I mean, she might not like rabbits. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah, and it's the fact that she's now going to be making sure that the rabbit's got you know, a better home. So, I mean, maybe that's the reason why the individual actually did leave the rabbit there, is because they knew of her character, and they knew that she would probably spend the necessary time and effort in finding, you know, a home for it. It's just, it's pretty strange, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, it is quite strange. I mean, maybe she should be thankful, really, in a way.
Maybe she should. Well, she is. She is, Grem. She is thankful. But I think, yeah, you're right. I think let's face it, she can't have all her fans send her gifts. I think that's the reality of it, isn't it? I mean...
Well, can you imagine if she opened the door and there was actually one of those rampant rabbits there?
I probably don't think that would be suitable for...
No, exactly. So she should be quite pleased, really, that she's actually got a bunny.
The furry sort. Graham, I think it's about time we had a coronavirus update, don't you?
Coronavirus update. Yeah, coronavirus update. With regards to the current list, there's many on the list. Up to about 3 weeks ago, there was up to 155 countries on the list. They are added and taken away as and when the levels of the pandemic spikes have dipped or risen in specific countries. I mean, at the moment, as most people should well be aware now, because it has been publicised quite heavily through the media and etc. Spain, France, USA are some of the main countries that are actually on the list still. I mean, my opinion is, and I've said this before in a previous show, why would you go on holiday? I just can't seem to concept the thought process that people still want to go on holiday when it's so risky. It's a really strange one there. I mean, as I said, the government will add and take away countries as and when they see fit due to the data that they get in. But they have stipulated a 14-day, basically, self-isolation, which needs to be upheld.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think we chatted about this, didn't we, Graham, on the previous show? And I think the thing is, I think you get people that, you know, go away and they want to get away from the everyday lockdown and, you know, the difficulties around maybe not being able to go out, self-isolate. So they go away maybe thinking that, well, actually, it's getting away from it all. But actually, regardless, it's everywhere, right? Because coronavirus, isn't it, Graham? It's over the world. It's not just in certain places. But I've spoken to somebody who's travelling recently, who travelled in a caravan, and they said, we want to go to the countryside because coronavirus isn't there. Well, it probably is, but it may be not likely because it's out of the way, but there's no guarantee to say you're safe. Of course, coronavirus is everywhere. It's national and it's international. So, but you could imagine, I suppose, travelling via motorhomes and caravans is probably a little bit safer because it's still your own environment than it is maybe then to travel to a hotel or apartment or maybe take a plane. Where do you draw the line? Because Graham, we've got the situation, haven't we, around the economy? And of course, people are saying we need to kickstart the economy again. We need to get people back out to work. We need to get people travelling again. Business needs to be, you know, brought back into the frame. And with that, does cause risks. And of course, naturally, most people travel publicly through public transport, which is always another issue altogether. But Andrew's mentioned. We're not allowed to talk about the virus, apparently. Some people have travelled to these countries as part of their work. Yeah. So yeah, you're not allowed to travel to certain places unless if you happen to stop, we should say, then you have to go into a 2-week isolation process, don't you, Graham? Which is what you said earlier.
Yes, especially if they are involved in that. Yeah, in the Pacific area that's got the spike, then yeah, that is one, isn't it?
It is one, but no, we can't chat. We can't chat on the virus itself. But what we can say is, be safe.
Yeah, be safe.
Graham, that does bring me on to another issue of the pointless news, Graham. And I always like this part because I get to play the little tune, don't I?
Pointless news.
Right, it's a pointless news. Topic article number 2 is Billie Eilish. And again, we've spoken about Billie Eilish in a previous episode, but this time, Billie Eilish is not just being spoken about in regards to her fame, and that she is very famous for music, and doing very well within the music industry, but no, we are going to talk about her dog. Because actually, her dog has caused a bit of an upset, Graham.
Yes, it has, hasn't it?
Yes. Let's just say it involves shoes, rather expensive, and feces. I think you get the drift, Graham.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yes. she's not a happy bunny, Graham. She's spent lots of money on these shoes and they've all gone to waste because of her dog. And as much as the dog is cute, as it's been articled as, or referred to as, not so cute no more.
I know. I mean, can you imagine the moment you walk into your room and you smell something that you know what it is, then you've got to locate it. And it's the fact that the dog actually messed over quite a few pairs of her favourite trainers, way over $1,000 worth of footwear. So it's a lot of money there. It's not very nice, is it?
Well,
1,000 plus.
Just be mindful where you put your shoes, Graham, innit? You know, if you've got a dog, don't put it in its reach, I suppose. I mean,
yeah, but if you think about it, looking at the bigger picture, everyone if they have a dog, the dogs will sniff an area and choose an area to do their business in.
Yeah.
So does that mean that Billie has stinky feet? Maybe.
Well, I remember being told some time ago, Graham, when it comes to dogs and shoes, is that they tend to like to take shoes of yours with them to bed because it's a comfort thing. And dogs like to look at it as a maternal thing also, like as if it's their puppies. I don't know if that's true, although I heard that story. But then I think this dog in particular got confused between puppies and poop.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what went on there.
No.
Every dog's different.
Homing in on a scent. That's all we can say about this pointless news.
But you know, Graham, honing in on scents, I want to hone in on this subject, right? Because as much as that was quite quick and brief, and I hope Billie Eilish turns to love her dog furthermore. I'm sure she will.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe buy cheaper shoes. Graham, a lot of people have been, let's just say, investigated recently. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah. It's basically to do with returning from holiday, from the countries that we were mentioning earlier on the, if you'd like to call it, the hit list that the government have of countries that have severe spikes within the pandemic. Basically, police forces across Britain are probing, I like that term, probing thousands who actually refuse to abide by the government rulings to safeguard individuals and themselves nearby. They should be isolating for 14 days and they've been found not to. I mean, so far, a Pacific Force has visited 840 individuals and given them a good talking to, and they are in the process of contacting another 310 quarantine breakers. The health minister and the health department have stressed yet again of the importance to strictly stick to the rules. You need to self-isolate for 14 days coming back from a business trip or a holiday.
Well, there you go. There you have it. Be good, guys, and listen to those people in profession because they know what they're talking about, Graham, don't they?
They do.
You don't want to get caught by the PC because he'll come after you. So behave yourselves. They always do, Graham. You can. What's that song? You fought the law, but the law won. Sex Pistols, wasn't it? Remember that? It's always a good point to go back to.
It is.
But Graham, I'm glad we touched on that because it is important. And as much as we can't talk about the virus, we can talk about our next topic, Graham.
No, we can't talk about the virus in depth because we are not qualified in that area, but we can discuss specific situations that are happening with a number of people, like returning from holiday.
Yeah.
We just can't go into in depth with regards to it because we don't have the necessary information up there. But I'm sure Ben would be able to find a few words to discuss on the topic.
Well, you know, I've always got something to say, Graham. Don't mean to say it makes sense.
Oh, you know, off the wrist. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I actually do have some interesting news. And I'm going to call this pointless news, Graham, because it just seems relevant. But it's not really that pointless because if you actually like the people I'm referring to or you know of the people I'm referring to, then it's not so pointless because it's a story. But I'm going to do pointless anyway because... Should we do pointless, Graham? What do you think? Yeah? I think we should, shouldn't we?
Pointless news.
It is a nice story. And we start with Katy Perry. Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom. Now, Graham, I didn't even know Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom were a thing. All right.
I did. Oh, yeah. I'm sort of in the know on that one. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, they're quite a nice couple. I think they genuinely do fit well together. They look
cute,
they look great together. Yeah. I think it's nice. But please continue, Ben, with the context of this because it's quite a nice story.
Well, I was enjoying listening to you, Graham, but I will continue if you wish. I mean,
please.
All I was going to say was they're having a baby, Graham.
They've had a baby, haven't they?
Have they? Yes, they have. It's the baby has been called Daisy Dove Bloom. That's a lovely name, isn't it? Daisy Dove
They're probably
Bloom.
trying for another one. You actually know them quite well, don't you, Ben?
What, babies or Orlando Bloom? Actually, I will talk about Orlando Bloom for a second because I can tell you a little story. It's not about me, but my cousin went to school in Canterbury, and she went to the same school as Orlando Bloom. And she had met him before he was famous. There you go.
Wow, that is really quick.
What?
17 seconds. No. Because that'd take up to about 2 hours chat on Orlando Bloom.
Yeah. So anyway, Orlando Bloom, he starred in the Lord of the Rings. For those of you who don't know, he was very highly renowned in that TV film.
Yeah, he done extremely well. It hit his career off, didn't it? Big time, and he's quite an amazing actor.
He is.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, Graham. I did not know that Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom were a thing. I mean, but that's good. I'm glad they are. I mean, it means nothing to me, but I'm glad they are. Graham?
I'm as well, mate. I mean, it is amazing. Congratulations to both of them. You know, but. As I said earlier, I do believe that they are quite an adorable celebrity. I can't say the word. Say the word for me, Ben.
Celebrity?
Yeah. Couple.
No gin.
It's not coming up again. No, I've got a little bit of gin.
Graham, look, Orlando Bloom's great and all that. So of course is Katy Perry. Music's good, but I want to talk about Australia now, because Australia is something that's been going on, isn't it? Something's been going on in Australia. What is it? For the viewers.
Well, it's quite a brief story on that. Australia have committed themselves to supplying basically a never-ending supply, if and when needed, of a vaccine once they are able to produce, if they can produce that their end. Yeah, so for the UK.
Good news.
It is good news. Mainly to do with the fact that the depression has increased tenfold in the United Kingdom due to the coronavirus pandemic. So it's all part and parcel of helping us out. So it's quite a nice gesture, and I'm sure that our country would do the same if it sees fit to help in that way.
Well, they're part of the Commonwealth, aren't they, Australia? And they've always been friends of ours, I suppose. You know, we've helped them out over the years as well. We go back, not me personally, but the two countries. Yeah,
exactly. And even Boris Johnson has said recently, coming away from the story slightly, but still with Australia, that the European Union he says that in his own words that he's going to say to the Michael Barriner that he's got to the 15th of October
right,
to agree a trade deal, and if not, then we at the end of the year will be leaving on World Trade orders. So, which means he then said he will be working very closely with the Australian government, who actually do buy from the European Union under separate rules. And he does feel that the country will do extremely well financially out of it.
right. Well, yeah, Graham, I think what we've got to be aware of as well is that World Trade Organization rules, if we have to rely on World Trade Organization, WTO, that does actually enable the United Kingdom to trade across the whole entire world. Although there's a sticking point between United Kingdom and Europe, that's something for the European Union to sort out. They cannot hold us to ransom.
No, and I think that's what they're majorly concerned about, because they know that yes, it will be the initial start for us doing that is going to be a bit bumpy, and there's going to be some major costs, financial burdens on the country.
Yeah,
but that will be gathered back over time, and not a massive long period of time. So it's all positive, positive news.
It is, but we don't want to draw too much attention to politics too much, even though it's somewhat political.
No.
But Graham, more importantly, I want to talk about hair.
Hair? Oh, can we go back to the story about the baby first? The name of the baby.
Yeah, well, actually, Graham, I'm glad you've done that, because there was a few people that come in on the subject. So please, fire away.
Really, really, really lovely name. Daisy. Daisy Bloom, isn't that?
It's a pretty name, isn't
it? Daisy Dove Bloom. That's it. Yeah. So Daisy. So you've got, you've got life there within that name, and the dove, you've got flight. It's amazing. I think they've done. It's such a two quite simple words, and
rolls off the tongue.
Yes, it's nice. It's nice. It's really positive, meaningful tags. Daisy, a blossoming life. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I like that. I think everyone else likes it as well.
What, Daisy? Yeah, I would say. Well, Graham, I'll come back to the subject of hair, because there's this one guy in the world who has never cut his hair. And I'm just waiting for my my teleprompter to kick in. But yeah, his hair, I can't even give you dimensions because I haven't got anything to tell you yet. But his hair's long.
Oh, it's 5 feet.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, it's 5 feet. You know, it's an extremely long amount of hair. Meters in length.
Right.
Yep.
I've got a gateway timeout on my teleprompter. That makes no sense whatsoever. 5 feet long, Grem.
Yep.
That is significantly long, isn't it? Can you imagine having hair 5 feet long? Can you
Well, I
imagine?
mean, can you? Yeah, exactly. I mean, can you actually imagine the fact that, you know, carrying out your daily chores, you know, and no, you get off the toilet and it just drops in there.
Not only that, you could trap it in the door. You know what I mean?
I mean, how on earth would the chap actually wash his hair?
Well, no, I'd feel sorry for the guy that's got to open the door because he's going to have to open it and hold it open for a good while, isn't he? Until he knows that you're completely through. You know what I mean? I mean, how awkward is that?
How many times do you think that he's not managed to get off the bus in time before the doors close?
How long did you say it was, Graham?
5 feet.
5 feet. Sade says not much taller than her.
Oh, bless her.
Well, that's a lovely name, isn't it, Sade? I like Sade. It's a nice name.
It's a lovely name. Lovely name. I mean, shampooing this chap's hair, you know, when doing that, I mean, it must take him a whole night.
Well, just think how much he's going to go through. That's another thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And what sort of shampoo? And is it like because
Head and Shoulders?
He's from Vietnam, isn't he? Yes. So therefore, maybe that he's using or they use probably over there more a natural sort of substance like beer.
Yeah.
You can wash your hair with beer. Yeah.
Well,
I'm not sure you can do gin though, mate.
No, I know what you mean, but I just think really that's the end of that conversation, isn't it? But
yeah,
I want to skip one, Graham. Can I skip one?
You
want
want
to get to this next point. Can I?
Oh look, it is. Yeah, you can do. Yeah, you can do.
It's the bare necessities, Graham. I need to compose myself. All right, I'm not concentrating. Bare necessities, Graham. Are you going to do that singing you said you were going to do or not?
Huh?
No, I'm joking. What is the story about this? Right, okay. Well, really, this is pointless news. Hang on a minute.
Pointless news.
Yeah, it's pointless because basically the story is in North California, a bear's walked into a supermarket. Not on two legs, but four. Yeah. And this guy, one visitor said he had one thing on his mind: bare necessities. I don't see the point of this is. That was pointless news. That was
it's funny though.
Pointless news.
If you read more like into that though, it's quite an interesting story because the bear, apparently the same bear, has actually been there before.
The very same
previously.
bear.
Yeah, the very same bear, and where he was found caressing like a packet of tortilla chips.
Yeah.
Sort of playing with like the texture.
Graham, Sade says it just wanted some honey.
Oh.
Pooh Bear.
Pooh Bear.
Well, maybe it wanted some jammy dodgers.
Yeah.
Yeasty hair. Ugh. No thanks. No. Graham, so...
But the bear did leave them both. Don't forget.
Hang on,
Graham. When
Graham.
once there was a little bit of commotion of people watching.
How can a bear come and go?
You know.
How would they know it's come and gone? What did it do? Leave them a name? A dog tag?
He just goes back through the door.
So you're telling me it came out of the store and then went back in immediately after, or did it go to the store one day for a pint of milk, come back the next day?
No, it was earlier, it was previously it was there on the 18th of August, I believe.
Yeah.
And then recently was the 25th, about the 25th of August. Yeah. Yeah, same bear. Tortilla chips. The century it must have been getting from the crackling of the. I'm trying to figure out how to open it up. Yeah, but it had a nice time, nice sort of stand and walk about in the aisles, and then off it went. Once it caused a bit of a commotion, it left the shop and went on its way.
Build a bear.
Boy, yeah.
Sade says build a bear.
Build a bear.
Pooh Bear, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How could she forget? Sade says she forgets, Graham, that Pooh Bear existed.
How can she forget Pooh Bear existed?
It's possible, isn't it? It's not on TV much.
Winnie the Pooh.
Is it? No, it's not, is it?
What's the song to that? Winnie the Pooh. Do, 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 do. What was it? I can't remember the thing. Winnie the Pooh. Come on, Sade, come on, sing it away.
Right, Graham.
In words.
Graham, can you
Are we
help me out with the
moving
next topic?
on? The next topic.
Well, don't forget, I skipped one, didn't I? But I think the reason why I skipped, Graham, is because it was about COVID-19 rising numbers. We've already done that, haven't we?
We touched it in the previous one, yes.
Do you want to touch back on it?
But yeah, we can come back on that.
Okay.
The UK hit new heights recently with 1,940 a new number, and sadly, out of that, been 10 deaths have been added to the list, which is quite sad for the families having to contend with that loss now. The government have also stepped up recently as well their testing facilities, and I've noticed it myself within the Canterbury area at the hospital there. The car park was quite full. One of their smaller car parks up near the outpatients department has been basically turned into a drive-through testing centre, and we were there the other day to get some paperwork for my partner, and it was packed with people going for their tests. So yeah, so it's been stepped up an awful lot, because in the early days, as we all know, the targets that they set themselves, they didn't quite match it, did they? They were quite a few points below the target that they wanted to get before the end of each month. But they seem to be on track now with that, which is a positive thing.
But Graham, isn't that a big figure though, isn't it? Coronavirus hit 4-month high with 19,040 cases.
Yeah.
No, that's not correct. Start again. 1,940 cases. Did I say 19,000? Yeah, I did. Didn't I? Yeah. Graham, that's crazy, isn't it?
It is an extremely high jump in figure. So it's a concern, and this is why people need to be extremely wary, you know, of any kind of symptom that they get, even as like a slight runny nose, you know, it could be. So, you know, stay indoors for just a couple of days, and if it will mutate more. If you're not sure, then you just go to a testing centre. There's plenty of them about nearby, especially.
Well, actually, it's not a very pleasant test, Graham. Actually, from what I understand.
No, it's not a great test. I was actually I got sent through the post one from the government. So yeah, which was unusual.
Have you used it yet, Graham?
Yes, it wasn't a very nice experience, you know, shoving this like swab, like literally right at the back of your throat and around your tonsils, and then literally as far as you can get it up your nose, both sides, and like going around. And then you have to put in this tube, seal it up, stick it in like a see-through bag thing with a sticky tear thing that you tear off, and then the whole bit closes up. And then you place it into a box and label the box and stick it in the fridge.
So,
and then you do that.
Graham, how long does it take then to get your information back, to say whether you're positive or negative on the coronavirus? Do you know?
I should know that because obviously I got the result back, and thankfully I'm okay. But,
Good.
Yeah.
My nose aches, Sade said. Well, actually, I'm not surprised sticking something up your nose. I mean, I can't imagine wanting to do that myself, but I will too do the same because I think it's important that we all do so. More to the point, Graham, is given current times, a lot of people are going back to a normality, aren't they? They're going back to maybe not so much social distancing, depending on what you're doing. And people are gathering, and the roads are a lot busier now. People are shopping. There's a lot of people around. So as what there was during the lockdown. So I think with that, naturally, you're going to have that fallout, aren't you? And you're going to have a situation where you're going to start to see cases rise, sadly, and that's maybe what we're seeing. So I think we do need to take extra care and certainly do tests regularly. I think just to be on the safe side, help each other out.
Keep to the to a good hygiene level. It's always wash your hands.
Yeah. Well,
it's amazing that you don't realise how many times that you have washed your hands in a day, and then you actually think back, oh my gosh, I never used to do that. I might have just done it like 3 or 4 times, but basically you need to do it about 23 or 24 times in a day.
Yeah.
If you think about it. So keep safe, everyone. It's extremely important.
Very important.
Graham, we need you.
Graham, I need to touch on our next subject because again, it's now I'm sorry for going into politics again, but somehow we always come back to it. But it's an important one because of again something we discussed earlier in the show where we talked about the migrant crisis, if you can call it that, depending on which way you see it. And of course, there are some retaliation aspects to it within political organisations. And so, for example, Graham, we have Mr. Nigel Farage. Now, Nigel Farage has been quite vocal recently because he has said, and he reflects, that the government, it seems, aren't doing enough. He believes, again, that with everything that can be done, isn't being done, more needs to be done, and the government's a bit soft. And basically, he actually said that if Bojo, to you and I, Boris Johnson, caves in to the EU crunch talks, then actually he will reignite as we know it, the Brexit party. Although they're not disbanded, Graham, what we do know is they are on the quiet because ultimately I think most people in the country thought actually that the United Kingdom was under control of the Conservatives, and in fact they were going to deliver the will of the people under the Brexit negotiations and referendum. However, that doesn't appear to be the case, according to Nigel Farage, and he's saying that actually, we are going to be watching, and if you backslide, if you make it difficult, we're coming for you. Just like they did, as they quoted, in the European elections. We know that they got many Brexit Party MPs or MEPs in the European Parliament. Do you think, Graham? I mean, we've actually got a video to show you guys on that subject of Nigel Farage being interviewed by Talk Radio on the very subject upon his belief around the situation with migrants, and of course his intervention, of course, when if he feels necessary to get involved and push the Conservatives with political influence. But what do you think, before we go to that video, Graham, and I just want to say, what do you think about that?
Well, I believe that he's going to, if necessary, wait for the Tory party to buckle. Why wait? If he's that concerned, why not actually initiate something now?
Yeah.
As just so it's there rumbling in the background.
Exactly.
I just don't understand. I just don't understand his concept there, unless they are already actually doing that, and they're just trying to be a big surprise. But what he's not got to do is just take it yet again down like a one issue side of things. It needs to be more. He needs to send more of a message of being able and willing to adjust to be able to possibly govern one day. Not him personally. I'm on about the party as such. So I mean the purpose to govern should be the main concept of any political party. Anything less from the NIGE, as people like to call him, can't barrage the Farage. Was it barrage the Farage?
You can't barrage the Farage, Graham, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Barrage the Farage. No, I'm going to say barrage. Sounds better.
But yeah, but Graham,
it's utterly pointless and pathetic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Basically.
I think most people would rather Nigel didn't have to get involved, I think people do or have relied on the Conservatives actually to deliver Brexit, haven't they? And I think people feel comfortable with a two-party state system. As much as I cringe at the idea of having a two-party state system, and of course we know that there has been noises within Parliament and outside of Parliament, local governments and community groups where they're called for PR, proportional representation, which does have a better effect on having smaller organisations get their voices heard, and of course naturally also in turn get their voices heard within central government, having fringe parties getting a chance as opposed to having the big elite parties like the Conservatives and Labour Party dominating the political scene. So with that said, Graham, Nigel has, and others like Nigel have said, don't they, that they feel that this is something we need to be looking down to, because first past the post does give too much power to the safe seats and to the big two parties. But I think as a consensus, I think most people, aren't they, Graham, are very much Labour or Conservative. I think that's generally how people are. And I think the Conservatives aren't going to want to take too many risks, are they? Because as much as it's okay for Nigel Farage and the Brexit Party to say, look, you slip up and we're coming for you, ultimately the Conservatives are not going to want to give way too easily. So they are going to do everything they can to ensure that they don't make this a mistake. And so we've got to
I mean, especially the fact that the polling has started to close quite closely. With regards to Labour, which to me, I think it's a bit of a surprise. I mean, is that polling actually correct? I mean, at the moment, I'm surprised that Labour are at, I believe it's 37 or 38%, and I think the Tory party is on about 42, 43. So it's quite an extremely close hit there.
Well, I think what we have to be aware of with that, Graham, is as much as it might be hard to stomach sometimes or hard to believe, given the demise of Labour, and since knowing recently they have come up in the world with their new leader, and I think, as we know, Sir Keir Starmer, he has changed the face of the party, hasn't he? And he is making new implementations to correction and support. So I suppose that has helped the Labour Party. But again, it's the narrative, and of course it's very much the same as it always has been, but maybe you could say that maybe Sir Keir Starmer is bringing things over a little bit better, a bit more stably.
Yeah, I do believe that he's the right person at this moment in time. If it was that Rebecca Long-Bailey that was running against him, it would just been ridiculous. They wouldn't have been they wouldn't have been anywhere near electable for another 10 years.
Yeah, indeed.
And but with Keir Starmer, I believe he's the right guy to set the foundations in place for Labour to basically get back to the party of what they were designed to be, the party towards people. But the question is once he's set those foundations and he leaves his post, are they going to get like another Corbyn in, or someone like Rebecca Long-Bailey, and stick up those foundations and then stick it back to what was happening with Corbyn?
Well, we know, don't we, Grem, the momentum movement is very powerful with the Labour Party, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, well, Graham, look, I, like always, have had a good time. You included, I'm sure. Wouldn't like to take words out of your mouth, but I'm pretty sure that's the case, isn't it, Graham?
No, it's been a lovely evening.
It has.
Like a strange start with a few issues. But then again, it wouldn't be the show without like personal issues going on, and apologies for that.
These things happen, Graham. But again, as always. The guys and the girls of the viewers have been fantastic. Always never let us down. Thank you very much, guys, and you're all we are really grateful for your time. And we've had our good times, of course, this evening. We've got some messages out to you, and as always, Graham, we do like a bit of Ben and Grem, don't we? And the Ben and Grem Show.
Yeah. It's been a lovely evening, and thank you, Ben. Thank you for making it possible with your production side, because it
takes two.
You do a lot.
Without you, mate, it wouldn't work.
But no, I will say, without you, it wouldn't work.
I will say that we will wrap up, and we will go to our closing scene. But with that, guys, we've spoken quite heavily, haven't we, on the subject of the Nigel Farage intervention towards the government upon whether the government implement Brexit correctly or not. That's whether they pull us out of certain legislation guidelines that we are currently entwined in, that being in January. And should we then see the Brexit party come back under Nigel Farage, and they'll show you that clip, we will show you that clip at the end of the show tonight, which will follow on from the credits. So that a little bit of an extra for you this evening, just so that you can get some concept upon what is being said by the Nigel Farage himself. Graham, I've had a great time, more so with you. Viewers have been great, as always. And when are we doing another show, Graham? We've got to be doing one soon.
Well, we need to discuss that, and we need to be a bit more upfront on the social media side, so we can let the people know.
Absolutely, Graham. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. But this is it. This is the Ben and Grem Show, and the Ben and Grem Show with small talk. We've enjoyed ourselves. We've had a wonderful time, and want to say thanks to you all for taking the time to spend the time with us. And from us, from me, Ben, and from Grem.
Yeah, and from him and me.
From him and me. It's good night. Yeah. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Shh.
The difference is, coming across the English Channel by boat is more visible. The British public and population have woken up to it, and they really have had enough.
They really have. But as far as the conversations that you and I have been having, Nigel, just even over the past month or so, literally nothing has changed. The only thing that's changed is the size of the number of people coming over, which is growing literally by the week.
Yeah, I mean, what has changed is we're spending even more money every single day on drones, aircraft, border force, Royal National Lifeboat Institute boats. I mean, the daily cost of this is absolutely humongous. But you're going to put the whole British Navy, well, what's left of it after 10 years of the Tories, but you could put the whole British Navy in the English Channel, and all the while the rule is, once they cross the 12-mile line, they can stay. What is the point?
Yeah. Well, I don't understand what the drones are for. Are the drones there so that we can see how many people are coming before they get here? Because if that's all they're doing, then there isn't really any point, is there?
Well, I think what the drones do actually is to point out to Border Force and Lifeboat exactly where the dinghies are, so that our taxi service can become even more efficient.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? I was saying to Julia Hartley-Brewer, perhaps the secret weapon in all of this, of course, might be Gary Lineker, because if they know that they're going to come here and end up living in his house, that might prevent a few of them from coming as well.
Well, very interesting. We'll see who they pick.
Yes.
To pick in Gary Lineker's house. I'll bet you it's not somebody who fought for ISIS in Syria.
No, I imagine that won't be the case. But also, as Julia pointed out, he did say he would do this in 2015. And thus far, he hasn't managed to find one migrant that he wants to put up out of the 48,000 that have come this year.
We'll see what happens. But whatever Gary Lineker does or does not do is actually in some ways a distraction against the real issue. And the real issue is we are being humiliated on the world stage. The real issue is we have a government that finally, having been reminded a bit last year, I think, in the European elections, picked up the mantle of Brexit. And of course, that means taking back control. And it looks like they've lost control completely.
It really does. And does that make you feel slightly uncertain as well about the rest of the Brexit situation in terms of these Barnier sort of negotiations, which don't appear to be going anywhere?
Well, all I can tell you is this, that the government is in trouble over the issue of competence. I mean, the bizarre in-out, shake-it-all-about hokey-cokey rules on quarantine, what's happening or not happening in Bolton, the fact that we're still incapable of testing people in a reasonable way in this country. At many levels, the government's being tested on its competence. On the immigration story, it's beginning to be tested on issues of trust. If they drop the ball on Brexit and cave in to Barnier's demands, there will be a Labour government led by Keir Starmer at the next election. And that's why I still think on Brexit, they're going to hold firm. At least I hope so.
A lot of people have asked me, Nigel, and they always ask whenever you've been on, are you and would you consider forming a new party or enhancing the Brexit party as it still is a party into some form of opposition to what this disappointing government has done?
Well, look, I mean, if they drop the ball on Brexit, Mike, and if we finish up on the 1st of January next year, having not taken back control of our fisheries, not being free of the European Union's rule book, not able immediately to start signing our own free trade deals around the world. If they drop the ball on this completely, then I think I'm duty bound to come back and give them a kicking even harder than they got last year.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I mean, I'm in no doubt that our entire political system is in need of urgent reform. We have a voting system that is completely out of date for the 21st century. We have a postal voting system wide open to fraud and abuse. A House of Lords, which is now, frankly, an abomination, as it's been filled up, with hundreds and hundreds of friends of the last 3 or 4 prime ministers. There are many things about this country in urgent need of modern political reform. The difficulty is to fight for that through a political party under the first past the post system that we have is a very difficult thing to do. And it might just need somebody younger and a bit more, and dedicated to pick up the mantle from me.
It may well be, but I mean, there is no doubt in my mind, Nigel, that your force is still very strong, that your political nous is better than most politicians that I've ever met. And there's no question whatsoever in my mind that people would get behind you as an individual in a way that they would never do with anybody else, just because I think they put their faith in this government. They put their faith in Boris Johnson. They wanted to get Brexit done. But it seems as though everything else is happening all around him without him seemingly being in control of any of it.
Oh, no, and that's a perfectly fair point. Mike, all I can say is I've spent 25 years of my life fighting through political parties to get change. Over the course of this summer, I've done it with an iPhone, going out into the English Channel and around the country. And whatever I choose to do in the future, all I can promise people who are listening and watching to this now, whatever I do in the future, I will go on trying to influence, shape and change the situation in this country.